Fire, baby.
Yo, check this out. Sit down. The lesson begins now.
It's classic.
In the mix, y'all.
Do you ever dream of? Have you ever loved someone so much you thought you died? Giving so much of yourself, it seems the only way. Tell me what you want now, and I will give it to you. Cause you are my love. Do you ever dream of candy, cold and raindrops? You're the same, my candy rain. My love, did you ever dream that it could be so right? Never thought that I would find
alumni get together, and very good enough, this is the first time we're having an educational component to that. So it's quite unique. 30 years of the medical school, 5 years of the UK alumni group.
I want to thank you all for joining us. You've given to all who came from Ireland, from UK to this place. We want to thank you because we believe that you will take us back home safe.
In the person of Professor Ebele Ahane. Unfortunately, he tendered his unreserved apology of not being here. And due to unforeseen circumstances, he really wants to be here, but he has a lot of responsibility. He's the chairman of the VCs, Nigerian VCs Union, so he's very committed. And through his president, Dr. Evaristus Afediwe, who unavoidably absent today, supposed to be here, our seat, and the US Day, which will come on 4th of May 2019. Thank you, and please enjoy today.
So let us not forget that. The next person who will have been speaking to us in person is Dr. Evaristus. He couldn't make it due to unforeseen circumstances. But he has sent his own address, which is going to be read by the UK Secretary, Dr. Jude.
I'm delighted to be invited to make this presentation, which I consider a very big honor and privilege. I bring you greetings from the body of the alumni in Nigeria. There is no doubt that our alma mater, the university of all times, according to our energetic and innovative Vice Chancellor, has become the most rapidly growing medical school in the country in almost all aspects, image of our university. Finally, may I once more thank the executive, the members of the LOC, and indeed the entire members of the association for putting together this year's activities. Congratulations and happy celebration. Long evenings.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jude, for that eloquent speech on behalf of Dr. Afediwe. Before we move on, I just want to make a couple of comments. Yes, this is our Unizik Medical Alumni Get-Together. But it is very important that we recognize some of our friends and colleagues who have found time, even despite their busy schedules, to come and join us, both professionally and as friends. So I would like to thank and welcome Yetunde, who is from, who graduated from Ogun State University. So please, can you just, so let us say, okay? And Dr. Chike Anochie from University of Nigeria, Enugu campus. Please, can we just recognize him? Thank you very much. And also our brother and our friend Zona Honorable, who has been very supportive for today. Thank you very much. And also somebody who actually also came from across the channel, Chisom. Chisom Honorable. Please just be welcome. And the reason why I'm mentioning this
I'm the president of Unizik Alumni. When you people were there, we had only faculty of medicine, some of you. But now we have 3 faculties. And apart from medicine as a course offered, we now have about 8 programs. All around, land plates and so on. Because what has happened at the university, having come to Nnewi, within that concept place, has actually made everything around it appreciate. So the land they have given to the institution before, they look at the back points when you go abroad. Because of the so-called closed marking system, that really undermines. You see somebody with excellent results, scored 60. And nobody understands that mark is over 60. Even when you score 50, 51, it's over 60, not over 100. So in the global assessments, we always put at a disadvantage. So what we have done...
There's only one thing missing. Who can get what's missing in all these experiences?
Thank you very much.
Please, I'm sure
and the other guest speakers, somebody from Abuja, Nigeria, and it's interesting. He actually did his youth service just next door to where I used to work. So, and that's why you should just sit within your, or remain in your silo. At times you don't know what you get. And I can say that I'm a Zikite by extension, because by adoption. Why? For 2 reasons. One, because as Doctor said, I went to the Premier University. In those days, we used it, and I think it's still regarded as such. UI and others. Yeah. So 2 universities in Nigeria, University of Ibadan and other universities. And I was placed in Nnamdi Azikiwe Hall, so we were regarded as Zikites. So that's one. The second reason why I'm an adopted Zikite, because I remember in 2011 when this idea was being hatched, I think Dr. Naza's family, Nnamdi Azikiwe, so because in preparation for my admission.
Okay, for my discussion, I think health economics is maximizing the available resources to give the best health care. And the resources include manpower, money, medication and stuff.
Thank you. Well, my own addition to that also, just as we discussed, health economic is the ability to use the resources you have, and again, also should involve your knowledge about the community you are serving medically, the ability of that community to afford, or the ability to pay, which also includes needs. Assessment and so I think that would be my own understanding. Putting everything together to achieve the best health outcome for your
I want to look at it from the healthcare perspective or the NHS perspective. If it's from the society, say the government, you need to spend £1,000. Does that make sense? I think this is very basic. So we know in the UK, NICE, they are the decision-making body, or they provide guidelines for decision-making in relation to cost effectiveness. So NICE has a threshold, and the threshold that NICE has set is 20 to 30,000 per colleague. So for any intervention that has ISA of 20 to 30,000 per colleague, it is deemed to be cost-effective. That's the decision-making process. So health intervention should be clinically effective, should be affordable, and should be acceptable to the different stakeholders. And as I said before, should be incorporated into our curriculum. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Fatoye. Health economics.
Especially as you go down the poverty line. The poorer you are, the more you spend a large proportion of your income on healthcare. And I think that is even not a respecter of persons really in Nigeria at the end of it, because some conditions that you have can push you into poverty, at least temporarily, even if it's not for a long time. Okay, go. Great. I decided to start with this, just to talk a little bit about the firms. So those are two of my colleagues, Chikwe and Ike. And both of them started both firms, Nigeria Health Watch and Epiafric. In 2007, both of them were working in the UK. Ike is still here, Chikwe is back in Nigeria. And by the way, Chikwe is now the CEO of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. So they, just like you guys, they were worried about the issues in the health sector. And they decided that the best they could while being in the UK was to write about it. And they started blogging about it. And that was how NigeriaHealthWatch.com came to be. They were doing their work in the UK, busy health professionals, but periodically they would analyze situations in the health sector in Nigeria. And before they knew it, government started listening. Because after about a year or two of starting the blog, the late Minister of Health and the past Executive Director of UNAID, Professor Babatunde Oshotimehin, came to the UK for a meeting. I requested to meet with them. So fast forward 2014, the firm started, and I was the first person to join. Not just as a staff, and also 2 years ago, the National Council on Health now mandated states, you can sign your own health insurance laws. The NHIS scheme at the federal is not mandatory. So a lot of people, wiggle out of it, especially employers. But state insurance laws now, once a state signs, theirs is mandatory. So if you're a resident in that state, you have to buy into the law once they begin to implement, which is another challenge. But at least they're beginning to sign the laws. And that's why for me, the theme about entrepreneurship has to take into cognizance of the space you're going to operate in Nigeria. Once those health insurance, you see in the south, the ones that have signed, in the north, quite a number of them have signed, Kaduna, Bauchi, Kano, Adamawa, Sokoto. In the north central, it's only Kwara. And really, it was when Dr. Saraki was governor that they even started, but they did not have a law back in. The opportunities really are very huge. And for us, we think that whatever business anybody is going to
health economics, transfer the knowledge or the practice here to Nigeria in a very simplified way, because yes, it's good with the second speaker. You can see he's going for health for all, health for all Nigeria. And they say there's no money, but there's money, and it is not actually, from all your health play that you told us, the cost effectiveness. How do you marry the two to ensure that the health economics is maximized for Nigerians to have health for all? Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Nsofo. Actually, my question is for Dr. Nsofo. I must say it was a very good presentation. Not that the other presentation wasn't fine, but it was quite interesting. A couple of figures jumped out of that. But precisely is the issue to do with the mortality rates, which you did mention. Those figures were quite staggering. But as I've always done in the past, I've always asked these questions. How do we monitor deaths in Nigeria? How has that always been dealt with? In fact, I was surprised that you're able to come out with some figures, because I've always challenged doctors that, do we actually know how many people that die in a day? And to be honest, nobody has actually been able to come up with any of such information. But from what you've said, which is quite interesting, so that's now being monitored, which is good. But the question, my question now is, what systems or what measures has your organization been putting in place or been able to formalize to track and address these issues?
Thank you so much, Honorable, for that question. I think for me, I'm excited when non-medical people are interested in health because it shows that advocates are increasing. So the statistics I quoted is from the Nigerian National Demographic and Health Survey, NDHS, which is done that we had a state motherhood project. It was a prevention of excessive bleeding after birth. And this was between 2008 and 2010. Before that project, 2 major trials that came out of the UK had established that active management of the third stage of labor can prevent postpartum hemorrhage in up to 70% of the cases. The Bristol trial and the Hitchinbrook trial. The Hitchinbrook trial, some centers in Nigeria were actually part of the study, and yet they were not being practiced. So, and that's why we think that a lot of things here have to do with training at the curricular level. And we're happy that the big mass curriculum is here.
About 500 people have taught this that are helping families. So the main vision is for you guys to take something away from this today, and for as many people that want to learn to also impart this knowledge on other people. I'll be sharing today. The first thing I also want to let you know is that don't think because you are doctors that's why you don't know what I'm going to share. What I'm going to share with you today, some accountants, chartered accountants don't even know some of these truths. Okay, so our mission as a team, as you can see there, is Royal Team. That's the team I'm building across the UK. I've got a population of over 500 people I'm training presently. Our mission is to teach people how money works so that they can help themselves to become debt-free and financial independent. How many people love the sound of that? Okay? All right. Good. How many people also have heard about a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad? You don't leave your money at the bank because your money don't grow and your money can never double in the bank. Secondly, you avoid taking higher credit facility from the bank, the one that come with higher interest rates. If you do that, no matter how much you earn, the interest rate that compound on the credit you borrow from the bank is taking your money out. As it's coming in, it's going out. You have to do exactly what the banks are doing. The banks don't borrow money to people at low interest rates. So you don't leave your money at the bank at low interest rates. Find a place to invest your money. On the other hand, don't borrow money at high interest rate from the bank. So if you go to the bank and you want a loan and they give you 8%, the first thing you should be doing is to take 8% and divide into 72. That's 9. That means if you take borrowed money for 9 years, the bank have doubled the money they borrowed you. So you have to always look for low interest rates. And the only way you get low interest rates is on your mortgage. So always take advantage of using your mortgage. Anytime you need money, go back on your mortgage. It's low interest rates with that, not on credit card. Okay?
Thank you very much. The message from here is that banks don't like him. He's been telling us not to put money in the bank, so banks will not like him. But very, very important topics that he's talked about now. I noticed everybody, despite us eating, everybody was interested in this. This is a very topical thing, financial education. Because you are interested in finance, insurance purposes, don't worry, there will be another snippet of insurance and financial talk before we leave today. Before we go to the next topic, before we get the next speaker, if you all remember, just two announcements to make. One is as part of, we're all Nigerians, as part of to end this program, there's going to be a Thanksgiving service tomorrow in the Church of Restoration in Manchester, St. Michael's Church Hall in North End. We'll give you the details later. Secondly, you all know there's a gala night tonight, 11 a.m. tomorrow morning, so that we can now get blessings from the Almighty before we disperse to our various places. You will also know there's a social event tonight. There will be a gala night. So we want to give you a snippet of what you are going to be expecting. It's going to just be no, we're not going to talk about finance in the night. We just dance and food. So we're not going to talk about appraisal. So the event is going to be moderated or, how do they say, compared or anchored by somebody who will make us laugh. He's a Nigerian. He's a He's an award-winning comedian. He's a Nigerian. He's based in the UK. He's a Nigerian comedian based in the UK. He actually won the Best Comedian UK award called AGMA. He's the one and only. He's going to give you a snippet of what you'll expect at night. He's the one and only MC Ojebi. Let him tell us what we should be expecting in the night.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I believe we have doctors in the house. All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What?
It's a mixture.
Of what? Look for my hand. Because as I enter here now, they look everybody like doctors. So let me know, doctors and Even people who don't go school, they would know. Everybody here goes school. Okay. All right, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name, like you heard, is MC Ojebi. He's a Yoruba man, Abi. Igbo. He has a very strong accent. I'm British, so please bear with me. Tonight we're just going to be communicating in this atmosphere and in this mood of feminology and epistemologies. Are you still here? And I don't go. We're here. Because I thought you guys are doctors. You're meant to be. We're Nigerians. When it comes to doctors, there are 4 major careers you can only achieve in Nigeria. If you are either a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, or accountant. Any other thing is a failure. It's a pity. But nowadays, like you said, footballers and musicians are politicians. No, don't let us go to politicians. I hope there's no politician in the house. No, don't let us go to that. Especially Nigerian politicians. No, don't let us go into, because I will not be able to leave this mic if I start talking about Nigerian politics. Because Nigeria is the only country where our politicians are actors and our president is a musician. It travels more than the artists in Nigeria. Our president leads us from diaspora. Our president tours the whole world and does not stay in his office. So don't let me start with politics. Nigerian politics is the only one that they will tell you that snake swallowed 36 million. Come on, you guys are doctors. Is it possible? No, doctor, sir, like doctor, sir. Is it possible for a monkey to eat 70 million? You fit? I love you, sir. You look like a politician. All right, like I said, I'm not here to talk that much. This is just the best to let you guys know that tonight is going to be a wonderful night. We're going to enjoy ourselves. When you guys come, we want to dissect and divide and integrate. How many of us went to public school and private schools? Growing up, many of us now, when you all get money now, you want a form like say you did not suffer. When many of you now, you went to that, I know you went to public school. You want us to try it? You want us to try it? Wherever you go, everybody that said they went to public school. So, but when you come tonight, we will look deeply into what I'm talking about. Were you the one that just said about insurance just now? You are a salesman. No? Honestly speaking, when it comes to life insurance, where is the man that spoke about life insurance? How are you, sir? The day life insurance people came to my house, that's when I knew my wife is a suspect. Because they will ask you questions, they are very smart. They will say, life insurance is not about when you die. It's a lie, it's about when you die. And he now said, it's not about dying, it's about what you leave as a legacy for your children. Blah, 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 blah. But they went too far. They asked the question, who will inherit who? Simple. But when they were not talking about money, 500,000, 1 million, and they said whoever dies first, the other person will inherit. The way my wife started looking at me, I began to suspect her because they said each person will get 1 million. So when he was already talking, I was already thinking, make a cuckoo die now. Just this 1 million. So life insurance people, I respect you people. I respect you. You are not. You are not. Oh yeah. I know. That's what that man told me as well. One way or the other, every month they are taking money from my account. I'll see you guys tonight.
So that's the snippet of what you're going to get tonight, and many more. There's going to be American auction, there's going to be dance, there's going to be some more food, a different type of food this time. Okay, now to the business end. Yeah, all of us who work here in this country, doctors, we all know that we all need to meet up to our to do appraisals every year. Then for GPs, you need to do your revalidation every 5 years. In the past few months, a few issues have come up with regards to appraisal. We know the case of the Nigerian who was hung out to dry. So a few issues have come out. So we are pleased to have somebody with us who himself is an appraiser. So he's going to talk to us based on what's going on and also from his own experience. He's a personal friend. He went to our sister university. When I say sister university, because we senior them small. Younger, they bully them small. APSI. So I knew him when he was in APSI. I did my house job in APSI. So we've come a long way. And he now come marry our own person. So the link is, we are interwoven. So he went to APSU, I was in APSU, then he's married to our product, and a fellow alumnus. So he is a consultant psychiatrist, and he's also a public health specialist. He's the lead consultant in the Salford Division, Greater Manchester Mental Health NHS Foundation Trust. You read still, get PhD on top of all the psychiatric things. So he's no other person than Dr. Chinedu Umali. Give him a hand of applause.
You know, the session after lunch is not always very easy. It's the postprandial session. Yes. When I'm in medical school, my physiology viva was after lunch. This morning when I came in, I had a suit on. That suit is off now. Not because I wanted to. I was sweating so much. So during the viva, I came in. You know the way you panic in second MBA? This is your life. You can feel out of medical school. And some people are so good that they're sure of passing the three. I was hoping to pass at least one, so that I will be entitled to a receipt. So the day before, I had my anatomy viva, and all they were interested in was for me to name this muscle, this one at the back. You yourself with big back, tell us what's the name of that muscle. Latissimus dorsi. I had no clue, I couldn't remember. It took Professor Abuaka to keep pointing and pointing before I remember. By that time, my time was over. So I was sure in my head that I'd failed anatomy. Biochemistry, I knew I was going to fail biochemistry. I knew nothing in biochemistry. So physiology was my only hope. So I came in, panicking. Then they said, this guy from your school, Dr. Mobudu, he was sitting there, looking at me. So he said to me, why is that man sweating? In my head, I said, these people have started again. I said, maybe he's just coming in. He's been walking. So you're saying, I said, exercise. This boy is not serious. And they just continued having this discussion. Then one said, what did you just do? I ate Gary. So what happens after Gary? So gradually, I now said, I know what you're saying, some postprandial sweating. Yes. By this time, my Viva was nearly over. As God may have it. We all know about this case, the Bawagaba case, that raised a lot of anxiety amongst, not just anxiety, anger. Showboy has been talking for the past, he's not even listening to me, which is very interesting. You should be the one telling people to listen. You know, when I teach, I come close to people so that people pay attention. So I'll be speaking from there very soon. So the case raised a lot of anxieties in the UK, anger amongst doctors. You know, different organizations came out supporting this lady. And it made all doctors actually sit back and reflect on their practice. And we all put ourselves in this lady's shoes. And we all kind of saw what could easily happen to any of us. So that was why when I was asked to give this talk, I said, fine, I could do that. And it's all about the GMC. Everything about this lady centers around the GMC. She's been struck off the register. We need to know what the GMC expects of us. What's that GMC? Who are they? Who are these people? What do they do actually? There was a huge petition that people signed that taxpayers should fund the GMC and not doctors. So lots of things have happened. So I think it's important for us to review what we do. So the way I'll try to do is I'll go through the outlines. So I'm a psychiatrist, like Chinenye said, and I've done a few things in public health. And I work in Salford. I'm also an appraiser. I was heavily involved in medical education previously, but I've shifted more to management. Technology is letting me know. Oh dear. Okay. There we are. So presentation outline. We'll talk about the GMC. The GMC, good medical practice, what it is, appraisal, validation. Then I'll just summarize the Bawagaba case because some people actually know a doctor was struck off the register, but some people don't even know how and why. Some people don't. So now, the GMC. When we talk about GMC, all sorts come into mind. When I was planning to come to UK, when I was doing house job, all I had in my head as a house officer was to buy a very good car. So I put GMC, and this came out. For a man planning to buy a car, then you Google, and this came out as GMC. You kind of in your head, because one thing is, we all have our assumptions of what organizations. So in your head, you know, most of us will be seeing GMC as this organization that will look after us, looks after doctors. We pay our annual dues, they look after you. No, they don't. That's not the role of the GMC. That's not. Look, see their slogan. They regulate you. Let's make sure this man is doing the job we want him to do. If he doesn't do it well, then we'll need to find a way of making sure he does it well. Ensuring good medical practice. So that's their motto. So it's not this one. So we'll move on. The GMC. So GMC has been around for a long while, 1858. And see their functions. One is protecting patient safety. Patient safety is paramount to what GMC does. 2, improving medical education across the UK. 3, improving medical practice across the UK. So that's the function of the GMC, these 3. It doesn't say anything about looking after doctors. We need to have that in mind and just get it off our head that they're here to look after you. No. You have to look after yourself. You have to tell the GMC, I'm good enough to work as a doctor. So you have to work in line with GMC guidelines. Now, GMC has 4 partners. Equal partners. Equal. Well, that's debatable as well, because sometimes some people argue that doctors are not really equal partners. But 1, doctors, employers, educators, and patients. The most important of all these partners, the patients. Do you know why they see educators as partners? Because they want the educators to teach the doctors, to make sure the doctor is good enough. Then your employer that employs you, then
the doctor. So these are the partners. So annual appraisals and evaluation are means through which doctors show, one, that they are keeping up to date with medical knowledge, and two, that they are working in line with the GMC. Record your work clearly, accurately, and legibly. Now, I'll come back to this when we get to the Bawagaba case about recording. Documentation is the most important part of what we do now. But we don't realize that. Anything you don't document, you did not do it, whether you like it or not. If you did not document it, it was not done. If you document anything that you did not do, they will say that you did it. You'll be the one saying, no, I documented it by mistake. The court of law will say, no, you did it. Evidence. So if you've done anything and you haven't documented it, you are not helping. So now, at all, that's about appraisal and evaluation. Let's go to the Bawagaba case. Because the issue with this case is, many people, because we are doctors, we've all sympathized with them, big time. Every single doctor has. We all feel the GMC has been very cruel and unfair to her. Many of us haven't actually thought that there's an important partner in the whole case, and that partner actually died. An important partner in the whole cycle, the child, the 6-year-old boy that died, is a big partner, which people have not given more thought to. That partner has a family who are entitled to be angry. And we have connected with the doctor. I'm not sure how many doctors we have in the UK, but the percentage will be low compared to the general population. The general population will sympathize with the child and her family. So it's not a very straightforward case. So now, let's go to the summary. So a 6-year-old boy who had diagnosis of Down syndrome was admitted to clinical assessment unit at Leicester Royal Infirmary. This child was referred by GP, and he had a pre-existing heart condition. The reason for referral was diarrhea, vomiting, breathing difficulties. Remember the reason for the referral. It wasn't for heart failure, it wasn't for stroke, diarrhea, vomiting. It's a normal day-to-day business for a child. It's nothing. So the point was the GP was actually being overproactive by referring. So Dr. Hadiza Bawagaba was an ST6 in pediatrics. She was covering the whole place basically that day. The CAU, emergency department, and the ward, the day ward as well. And I think it's a huge area for anyone to cover. She had just one ACHO working with her on the day. There was a consultant on call, but the consultant was at home. And I know in psychiatry, when we're on call, we are usually at home, it's fine. Sometimes you can stay the whole weekend, no phone call. That's one of the reasons I'm in psychiatry. If you choose to be in pediatrics or medicine, you'll be staying on that ward. For those of you who have not chosen your career, you might have to give it some thoughts. If you don't want to be staying on the ward all the time, you can come away from there. So a pediatrician, most times, you come in at the beginning of the shift for handover, you're expected to be there all the time. Now and again, you get the chance to go out, but you're expected to come back because anything can happen at any time. The consultant was not on ground at the time. Now, prior to this, she had an impeccable record. She was an excellent trainee, well spoken of, no problems at all. And I'm sure many of us here have similar records where no one's complaining against you. Even though the higher you go in your career, you'll be getting complaints. They complain about me regularly. Not just patient staff, even doctors. He did this, he did that. So it's not a problem. Just make sure you're doing what you need to be doing. Don't worry about people complaining about you. Then, she had recently returned from maternity leave, and that was actually her first shift in an acute setting. So Dr. Gaba, she saw the child at 10 a.m. The child was receiving supplementary oxygen. That was because of the breathing difficulties, and I think her SpO2 was a bit low, but not terribly low.
And she prescribed fluid bolus and arranged for blood tests and chest x-ray. Now, at 10:44 a.m., the first blood gas test was available and showed very high level of lactate. So the x-ray became available from around 12:30 and showed evidence of chest infection. So Dr. Gababawa was involved in other patients during the day, you know, LP, all sorts of things going on. She was busy, very, very busy on the day. So at 3 p.m., Dr. Gababawa, she reviewed the child's x-ray. She was not informed before then that it was available. So it was actually available. There was a nurse on shift. She's been struck off the nurse's register. If you think the GMC are harsh, goodness me, go and try NMC. Go and try NMC. They strike nurses off at short notice for very little things. So she's been struck off. I think the problem with her was she was keeping records, the vital signs that weren't very great, and she wasn't telling the doctor. So Dr. Bawakaba didn't even know this, why she was running around the whole place. So she prescribed the dose of antibiotics immediately, which the child received an hour later from nurses. So there were issues with the electronic systems were down. So the computer system that day, and that meant that she had ordered the test around 10 a.m., but she did not get the results until 4:15 p.m., which is, ridiculous. So the factor of the employer. What I want you to be doing as we are going through this case is looking at the four partners. The four partners. Dr. Gaba, the doctor, the Leicester Infirmary, the employer, the consultant, the educator, then the patient. So you see how everyone has been involved in this case. Then it all meant her senior house officer was unavailable because she had to go at some point. She had to leave at 4. So the house officer had gone by the time she got the results. So it was down to her alone in the whole place. Now, during a handover meeting, so the consultant now came in. During the handover meeting with consultants, which took place about 4:30 p.m., Dr. Bawagaba raised the high level of CPR in the baby's blood test results and the diagnosis of pneumonia, but she did not ask the consultant to review the patient. You see, we work very hard, doctors, and every single doctor believes they're special. We all believe we are too much. Everyone, even the people who don't work hard, believe they are very smart. He's stupid, he keeps working, killing himself in NHS. This is how you should do it. We should do it to show every doctor that we are doing something extra. In fairness, Nigerian doctors do work hard, but you do not try to be a hero. That's the problem. Do not try to be a hero. Because so far, you can see that Dr. Bawagaba was trying to be a hero. She was absolutely running a whole unit on her own. It's all good and fine when things are going well. Your consultant will say, very hard-working doctor. If you're meant to finish at 5, you leave at 7. She's such a lovely lady. When you leave at 7, you get home, your husband is not happy. He may not say anything, he's not happy. You, the man, you get home, your wife is not very happy. But sometimes we get consumed with work and wanting to please everybody, apart from ourselves. We've got to remember to look after ourselves. When things go wrong, you are absolutely on your own. Dr. Bawagaba said that the child had been much improved and was bouncing about. That was what she said to the consultant. They asked consultant to see. So at 6:30 p.m., she spoke to the consultant a second time, but again did not raise any concern. So that consultant was not on the unit, on a busy unit that had only her running around. So on such occasions, you will expect a consultant to step down and start helping her out. Help her out. Even if you're just fixing camera, do it. She's busy. He didn't do that on the day. So when Dr. Bawagaba wrote up her initial notes, she did not specify that the child's enalapril for his heart condition should be discontinued, even though she did not write up the enalapril on the child's medication chart. So she recognized that the enalapril should be stopped. Difficult one. Now, GMC, good medical practice. Remember what it says. documenting, write legibly. Even if you write something that people cannot read, you did not write it. If a nurse gives a medication, if the dose you prescribed was 5%, and because of your writing, the nurse thought it was 50% and gives 50, and the child dies, it's your fault. The nurse has done absolutely nothing wrong, and nobody will ask the nurse a question. That's the way it works. Now, documentation is very important. When I was training in Ireland, when I on call, we didn't have an electronic system. We used to write short notes. So when on call, I could do 10 admissions and see about 10 people in A&E in one night. Easy. Because only what I wrote during the on-call was all the record needed. And that was fine at that point in time. But things have changed and moved on. So Dr. Bawagaba was working the way we were working in those days, but documenting the way we were documenting, which is no longer fine at this time. So you need to document in such a way that people will follow your thought process. Seeing blah, 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 because of this, NLAPREO is no longer indicated. Impression, this, plan, stop NLAPREO, pa, pa, pa. Then you give it to the nurse, let the mom know. That's that communication. GMC Good Medical Practice, documenting legibly, communication, partnership work. So partnership on this occasion is the nurse, the patient, the child, the relatives. So there was a complete failure in that aspect of GMC Good Medical Practice. Total failure, unfortunately. So that was why the poor mom, nobody told her, do not give her the regular medication. She knows that the child gets this medication regularly. So when the nurses did not give the medication, in her mind, oh, poor nurses, they're very busy, they've forgotten this one, let me just give. And she did. And that was what happened. So the child was subsequently given his evening dose of enalapril by his mother after he was transferred to the ward. So, summary. Again, at 8 p.m., a crash call went out, and Dr. Gababa was one of the doctors who responded to it. On entering the room, she mistakenly confused the child with another child that had a do not resuscitate instruction and called resuscitation. See, in Nigeria, they will say, when they won't catch you, they will catch you well. But still, her mistake was identified within 30 seconds to 2 minutes, and resuscitation continued. So it didn't have much impact. So this hiatus did not contribute to the child's death, as his condition was already too far advanced. But what did it look good on Dr. Bawagaba? No. It showed her as a doctor that was not organized, who was not structured, who was crumbling under pressure. One of the things I teach people, and one of the greatest attributes you can have working in the NHS, is ability to keep calm under pressure. If you're able to do that. So now, moving on. At 9:20 p.m., the child died. Okay. So at Nottingham Crown Court, Dr. Bawagaba was convicted of manslaughter on grounds of gross medical negligence. Then she was under 2 years suspended sentence initially 2 years suspended sentence, and just struck off for only 1 year from the medical register. She appealed against her sentence without success. So initially it was 12 months by the Medical Practitioners Tribunal Service, which rejected an application from the GMC to strike her off the register. So the GMC were wanting to strike her off the register. Then the GMC, the MPTS said, in the circumstances of this case, balancing the mitigating and aggravating factors, the tribunal concluded that a ratio would be disproportionate. So they considered that she was alone and all the difficulties. And in most doctors' opinion, it was fair. We all felt it was fair. Apart from my good friend who works for GMC, he actually told me I was very stupid by making such a statement. He's also an ASU alumni. You know, he's been in UK, he's a pediatrician. He was very annoyed with me that I was part of the doctors saying that Dr. Bawagaba was unfairly treated. He told me, I'm totally disappointed in you that you're one of them. So he now spends time giving me the points one by one. And after giving me the points, I thought, okay, I'm going to shut up now. So what happened then? The GMC appealed the MPTS ruling at High Court, arguing that it was wrong to allow Dr. Bawagaba to continue to practice, and she was struck off the medical register subsequently. So, struck off the medical register and convicted for manslaughter, even though she was given suspended sentence. So now, there were concerns about how her reflection on the matter was used as evidence against her in court. Dr. Gaba's defense body released a statement saying that her e-portfolio reflections were not used against her in court. But people thought it was used. Some sources reported that her reflections were used in court from a document submitted as evidence by the on-call consultant on the day. Because they asked for statement from everybody. And what happens with doctors? I think by the time you've gone through 6 years in medical school, you learn to look after patients. You kind of learn to be kind. You know, we take responsibility. We take ownership. Every doctor. I don't think I've seen any doctor who doesn't have that. Even some doctors who have thought were bad doctors, who have written very, I've taken upon myself to make sure, say that this doctor was a dangerous doctor. But even in them, I know there's still a part of them that cares. So we care, and we take responsibility, and we want to do well. And it's based on, see what I mean? So we feel we are special. And that makes us want to be the best at every point in time. And anytime we don't do an excellent job, we feel very, very bad. We show great amount of remorse. We want to apologize and say we won't do it again. We want to reassure people and get people to believe that we won't do it again. And that was what happened in her case. Can you imagine how she would have felt? The poor girl felt terrible, and she poured her heart in a reflection. She poured her whole heart in a reflection she did. So when they were asking for statements, I think what happened was that she gave her reflection to the consultant herself. She wasn't asked to, but she did just to show, I'm sorry, I've actually reflected. I know what I've done. Please, I won't do it again. So the consultant, we're not sure, but that's the suspicion. That he said, okay, this is what happened. This is because it's a written evidence. If you ask for any evidence you have of what happened, his thinking was that this was an account, a good account of what happened, that this doctor has written, where she's taking responsibility for everything that has happened. I'll come back to that. So Dr. Bawagaba, she's appealing against the divisional court judgment to remove her from specialist register. The appeal will now be listed for a full hearing by 3 courts of appeal judges later this year. I think it's going to happen sometime in July. So the case is still ongoing. So the case has caused a lot of anxiety amongst doctors and raised questions about the role of the GMC in the lives of doctors and how honest reflections could be. Because we all buried this GMC. In fact, most of us signed the petition. I don't want to pay for these people. They're against me. They're not for us. Many people signed that petition. The anger I saw in doctors was unreal. For the first time, I saw Doctors United in the UK paying money. So she has tons of money to get the best lawyers in the world for this case. So, let's talk about reflection. When you're still full of emotions, don't do that reflection. Because you will not be objective. You will be full of emotive statements. You'll be taking full responsibility. I say to her, in reflections, you just got to be smart with your reflection. But we must continue doing reflections. It's part of what we have to do. But I'll tell you what the GMC said, so that you'll be the one to decide how you do your reflections. I won't be the one telling you. I know how I do my reflections, because I've done it for a very long while. So reflection underpins all of our learning. Consciously reflecting on your performance as a physician, it ensures you learn from your day-to-day practice, provides insights to your performance through self-appraisal, and helps you identify your learning needs and prioritize your professional development. That's the whole idea of reflection. Now, brief narrative of events. What I do with reflection, and this is in line with the Royal College of Psychiatrists reflective template, which I agree with. There are many things the Royal College of Psychiatrists do that I do agree with. I do have a go at them. I do tell them what I think from time to time, and always respond with diplomatic letters telling me to join the college and become an active member, and I keep saying no. But the way their reflective template is, I actually like that one. So, brief narrative of events. Brief. And when I say brief, I actually mean brief. I'll tell you exactly how I will do a reflection on the Gababawa case in a minute. What went well? You need to say what went well. A few things must have gone well. Make it very clear, loud and clear in that reflection. What could have been done better? Not what went bad. No, nothing. You didn't want it to go bad. And I don't think there's any doctor I know that wants the care they're giving to the patient to have a bad outcome. No. It's all with the genuine and honest intention of having good outcome. It's the only thing that gives doctors job satisfaction. So what could have been done better? What changes have your team made to their practice as a result of the event? Never mind you, your team, the whole team. And when we are talking about team, we're talking about the hospital, your employer, your educator, everybody. Then, what changes have you made to your practice as a result of the event? Now, let me do a reflection of Dr. Bawa case, how I will do that reflection. This is what I will do. Brief narrative. 6-year-old child referred by GP on account of vomiting, nausea, and breathing difficulties. Scene, blood test taken, investigations showed blood tests suggested infection, antibiotics started, enalapril discontinued, not prescribed on prescription chart, cardiac arrest called, the whole team attended, child passed away. Finish. Narrative done. Then I'll go to what went well. The whole team worked as an MDT. During the crash call, everyone rushed. The child was seen by the doctor. You don't say your name. No, not you. It was seen by the doctor. And so, blood test taken. All the good things that happened. Spoke to consultants when the consultant arrived for handover. They start that. What could have been done better? Hospital electronic system to be working better so that blood results can be assessed. Nursing staff, better communication between doctor and nurses. So you've not lied because you did not. Better documentation of events. So you've actually said you could document better documentation in defense on the electronic system. More staff, inadequate staffing level on ground on the day. Finish, because you don't want to criticize the hospital too much either. Then, of course, you would like to say consultant was not on ground. But you cannot do, because if you do it, you get into trouble with your consultant. If you get into trouble with your consultant, you're in trouble. Then, what changes have your team made to their practice as a result of the event? Then you begin to write, because I'm sure they would have worked on the electronic system and so on, the writer. What changes have you made? I have reflected deeply on this, and I now document my decisions more on time and more accurately. I now hand over verbally to nurses, just in case they did not see the documentation. You do all this, and that's the reflection. That reflection, if it's sent to a court of law, they cannot say you did anything. You see what I mean? That reflection, I'll be happy for that reflection to go anywhere. Look at the statement by the GMC. Now, decide what you want to decide in this case. Make up your mind. While we don't ask for reflective notes from doctors in order to investigate a concern, ultimately all written materials, including reflections, are potentially disclosable in the context of litigation. Currently, there is no legal privilege shielding them from disclosure. Remember this, don't forget that. Anything written down can go to anywhere. The GMC does not have the right to say no. The same GMC have told you that your e-portfolio cannot be accessed. They've told you, we, the GMC, don't ask you to bring it. But if they're asked to provide it, they cannot say no. So you need to know what you're writing. So bringing it together, this is what we need to be doing. And this is something we don't do well at all. And this is where Indian doctors are specialists. Indian doctors, they are good doctors. Knowledge-wise, good knowledge. Do they have energy to work? Yes, they do. Will they do more than they should? No, they will not. They will not do the extra. No. If there are not enough staff, they will say there are not enough staff. They will report it. They will spend time writing. If you ask them, I spend time writing and expressing my concern, they will send it to the highest school and they will say, no, I will not do it. Nigerian doctors will keep working hard. Let's do it. We'll take over. Then, what do we say? After all, in Nigeria, I can see 50 people in clinic. Nonsense. These people say, they're giving me 3. What is 3? No, you're not helping yourself. So, if you feel exposed by the level of staffing availability of support, IT functionality, or other systemic issues, you should immediately make that known to the consultant in charge. Speak to the consultant in the first instance, and feel free to say, I cannot do this. I'm sorry, sir, I cannot do this. You don't have to do it. 2, be aware of any additional relevant local reporting mechanisms that may apply, and make sure you have the relevant contact details to hand. Know who to report to. You need to. It's very important. In as much as is possible, compose a careful and balanced written account of the risks in the situation and report that to senior clinicians and management. Careful and balanced. Be objective. Give accurate account. Then consider reporting the concern directly to your relevant colleges. You can write to the president of your college and your president will respond. When I've attacked the Royal College of Psychiatrists, I've received a letter from the president. Because once I get annoyed with them, I tell them what I think. I'm a member, I've been a member for a long while, but whenever I'm not happy with what they've done, I write a personal letter. There, I mention his name and I post it to him. I get a response. Some doctors may be reluctant to directly involve their consultants in case this implies that they are unable to cope. No, you don't have to. The consultant understands. The consultant himself doesn't want to get into trouble. So bringing it together, Royal colleges are independent and will endeavor to respond quickly with appropriate suggestions, discussions, and advice. If you do choose to write a reflective report, ensure that it is fully anonymized. Listen to this. Ensure that e-portfolio reflections contain no particular identifiable information. This will minimize but not eliminate the risk to patient confidentiality. This is the most important part of everything I'm saying today. The most important part of everything. If you haven't taken anything away, take this away. Avoid and say, I did this wrong, it was my fault. Just give an account of what happened. Let people decide. Just give an account of what happened and leave it be. Because if you're going, the way it works in a court of law, if you've said, I did this wrong and this is my fault, that's what the lawyer has seen. So, or judgmental statements about any patients or staff who may be involved. So do not criticize other staff members at all or suggest that it was their fault. You cannot do that. Avoid emotive language. So that's why that time where you're full of emotions, where you're feeling guilty and terrible, when you're feeling that you failed, do not do that reflection. Leave that reflection for another date. So seek advice from senior colleagues or defense unions representatives in cases considered to be potentially serious. So if you look at this case now, let me just finalize. If you look at this Dr. Bawakaba case, a patient died, and the mom has every right to be annoyed that she was not advised not to give this medication. But again, when you look at it from the other view, you say, but why would you be giving medication to a patient that is under the care of healthcare professionals in a hospital where they give medication from prescriptions? Then the argument would be that she was trying to help the doctors because she thought the nurses and doctors omitted this one, and she was acting in good faith to make sure her son was okay. Then you look at the educator, the consultant, who was at home, who we all feel was not as supportive as he should have been. Then you look at the employees, who did not have enough staff on ground, and who the electronic system failed. Then Dr. Bawagaba. So, what does it mean for foreign doctors? You are no different from others. You will not be treated differently, you will not be favored, and you will not be discriminated against. I know sometimes we feel they discriminate against us. I think I've been in UK for long enough to kind of come to my own personal conclusion from what I've seen, is that people don't just discriminate against you because you're a foreigner. No. It's usually based on how you work and what you do. That's what leads to it. Because I've seen where foreigners have been treated like kings and queens and spoken so well about and been given the chance to rise to as high as they want. And I've seen where foreigners have been destroyed. I've also seen where white British people have been praised like queens and kings, and I've seen where they've been absolutely hammered. So I think it would be unfair to say that we are treated differently. That's my personal conclusion from personal, and I think after 14 years of working across UK and Ireland, I think I have enough experience to come to that conclusion. Initially, I was of the opinion that they discriminated against us, but I don't think that's the case. And many people share the same opinion as me on this. So remain focused and organized. Work hard, very, very hard, is important. But do not try to be a hero. Be mindful of guidelines and recognize your limitations. Seek advice when needed and learn to report adversities when necessary. So that's the end of my presentation.
Will you not be looking at me that no, you cannot help me? Someone like you cannot handle my finance. Honestly, but you guys did what I was watching. When that happened, honestly, that man there, that native doctor. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to do something unique, something interesting. Women in the house. How many people know what they call food processor? Auntie, I don't know what food processor. And I thought you went to school. Oh, Jesus, I mean. Auntie, you like food processor, don't you? Do you want one? Okay, you are going to get one. Do you like food processor? Do you want one? Where's your husband? Okay. Auntie, do you like food processor? Auntie, do you like food processor? You don't even know what food processor is. And I called the people that was doing the event that, sorry, I'm running late. I just missed my turn. I said, ask anybody around. Mistake of my life. As I parked and asked the first man, please, how do I make my way to Nnamdi Azikiwe? He said, hey, Jesus. I said, what? He said, I don't know it too. So why did you shout? I pity you then. I said, okay, I move forward, ask the second person, second mistake of my life. I said, sir, please, how do I get to Nnamdi Azikiwe University? He said, calm down. I said, why? He said, calm down. He looked at me from head to toe. He said, so where are you coming from? I said, what does that got to do with where I'm going? I said, I'm coming from Lagos. He said, chai, you came all the way from Lagos to come and lost in Oka. You are lost. I'm suffering. I said, Oga, please, do you know the way? He said, Nnamdi Azikiwe University. Okay, raise your head up. Commandment. He said, raise your hand. I said, okay. And so for almost 30 minutes, this man was like this. He said, as you are going, and I've not been going straight. We're going straight. Are you still here? You are lost. You don't know what you are talking about. So please, if you are going to that place now, don't miss your road. They don't already do a lot of infrastructure. But back to the food processor that I was talking about, Nancy. I should have you are the one that will take it home. Your husband will take it. The food processor here today is going for very, very little price. We're doing auction now. So this is where you need to bring out your checkbook, your cash. If you don't have cash and you don't have checkbook and you don't have your card,
you don't need to worry. We have somebody that will be writing names of those that want to participate in this wonderful auction. We've got 2 items to give away. Agama Shuma, that is the only person allowed to use this processor. The second one is what you see in my hand. Normally in Alaba, this thing is going for £5,000. But today, as they don't panic. But today we are going to start at £20. Okay? If you want to buy this thing for £20, please let me see your hand up. Yes, I already told them. If you don't have cash, don't worry, it's not a problem. You are doctors, we respect you people. You cannot owe. You owe like this, you call the office. We report you to NHS. Or if you private don't bring the FCC here. We should blow your start to. So if you want to take this up for £20, let me see your hands up. 20. 20, you have 20. Thank you very much. Congratulations. When we are doing any ceremony party, I can host any ceremony. Don't come and do it. Like people when man worship God, Baba God, thank you. This is the from the upper system, 200 your boy has not made it. God, you need to bless your boy. So that's how we Igbo people communicate. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, the next thing I have with me is the coffee machine. I know the men in the house will want a coffee machine. Well, for some of you that don't take coffee machine, this machine, you can use it to make tea, you don't cook. I will bring coffee machine. £70, right? I'll grab £75. £75 going once. Try. £100. Somebody bring my account number, please. I want to give this man. He's the man of the. What's your name, sir? No. Nana Vino. I can give you name. Nana Vino. Nana Vino. President Vino. Nigeria future president. Please help me celebrate. Are you contemplating going into politics? You should. You look like you are already in politics. Now that politician just hijack and inflate. We have a politician here. You have a politician? Hello, sir. How are you doing, sir? I love to be a politician. Hello. How are you doing, sir? What's your name, sir? Peter. I hope you are not like Buhari kind of guy. I'm very stingy. You now wake up. Someone that is suffering from dementia. You now wake up and say, Nigerian youth are lazy. I can't blame you. The next day you could not remember what he said. Anyway, where were we? £75? 100? No, 100. Oh, sorry. I shoot that man. You have £105. 105. 105. 105. I even want to give this man because he looks like a coffee man. Like a coffee man. You know, people that take coffee, we look agile and we look ready. When you take coffee in the morning, by the time you
the association, we've gone a long way, and we're trying today to honor our VC and also our programs. Thank you very much for appreciation to VC. Yeah, VC. So the executive will come. We want the executive to come out, please. The old ones. Appreciation back to the Vice Chancellor of Nandaziko University, Professor Joseph Arlen, for his fatherly role and support in this association. Thank you, sir. Okay, so the next one is a presentation for the patron of the association. From congratulate all the members of Unizik Alumni UK and Ireland. We appreciate you, sir.
So,
Secretary Dr. Lele Onubo. Assistant Secretary Mary Rose, Dr. Mary Rose Idekwe. They should have known their man. Mary Rose, yeah? Can you come on, please? Financial Secretary Dr. Ifnani Ijeleme. Treasurer Dr. Keshi Eze. Provost Dr. Wadi. Piano Dr. Valentine Udoye. Irish rep representative that is not here, Dr. Obidike, Dr. Stephen Obidike. He's not in our midst, he was the previous assistant secretary. Okay, before I call on the provost, I won't forget to thank Dr. Mahdi, who flew from the US.
I solemnly pledge to serve the Unizik Alumni UK and Ireland to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
What that means is that we need all of you. So let not say the executive will do that. Let all of us join hands together to take this association to the next level. And on behalf of all these beautiful and handsome guys here, what we promise you is that for the next 3 years, we are going to give you an association that will be the envy of all other medical schools or medical alumni in the UK.
Okay, so we go and eat first, and then we'll come back and dance. Is that okay, or do you want to dance first?
We can do everything together.
We can do everything. DJ, are you ready?
Now we can go back to our stage.
one na Sara Sara. The beat is tarantana. You go make you manya manya. Ines is in manya manya. Oh yeah, make you ricotta ricotta, mama Africa ricotta, hey. Make you dance, yeah, 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 yeah. Everybody ricotta ricotta, mama Africa ricotta, hey. Make you dance, yeah, 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 yeah. This one na Sara Sara. The beat is tarantana. You go make you manya manya. Ines is in manya manya. This is for people with chalacha, hey. People with kalaka, hey. Nandi walanya, ay, Nandi kalanya. It go make you feel better. This can take away palaba. This can take away wahala. It go make you feel Niger. Oh yeah, let's go to Kenya, Rwanda and Tanzania. Togo, Cameroon, Niger, Ghana, Southern Sudan. Oh yeah, make you ricotta, ricotta, mama Africa, ricotta, hey.